It's going. There we go. Awesome. Welcome. Welcome to the first Monday in February. Wow. Where did January go? Welcome,
I know,
ladies.
right?
Have you seen
Welcome.
a meme that I survived the year of January?
Feels like it.
It
I know.
does. Did you guys see the groundhog scene? We're going to have 6 more weeks of winter.
Are we really surprised?
No, I seen a meme today that said, "That's it. We're smoking groundhog." It's like, oh,
Too funny. But, like you said, are we surprised? I live in the area of the United States where we're on roller coaster season. We go from being super cold to, 50s, 60s. So, and then back to super cold and snow,
well,
Well,
we'll
we
take it.
are finally above zero. So I'm excited about that. I tried to miss the best worst of the cold in Vegas, but I didn't. It was still here when I got back.
well, as I was driving home this afternoon, it was 68. So I was quite happy. I had my window down and no glasses on, and I was getting my sunlight. And yes, it was glorious.
Too funny. All right. Well, for those that are listening, because this does end up and get uploaded, why don't we give them tonight's topic? That speaking of Miss Sly down in Vegas, kind of
Oops.
prompted the topic for tonight.
It did. It's all you, Sly. So tonight, our topic is regulated travel, how to stay human in airports, hotels, and chaos. And travel isn't just inconvenient, it's a full body stress event that hits your circadian rhythm, your immune system, your metabolism, your nervous system all at once. And tonight, we're going to break that down and we're going to talk to Coach Sly, who just got back from a trip. And it was funny because she was actually messaging us during her trip. Uh, so we thought this would be a great topic for tonight after Coach Sly coming off of that trip. So would you agree? Is travel a stress?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I didn't just travel the one time during the month either, did I? I
No.
went this way. I went to the east, towards the east, a couple of states over to Ohio, then came back for 1 week, and then left the next week and went to the opposite side of the states. And it is a stressor. I mean, you think like even going to Ohio, you're like, oh, it's just 1 hour, right? It's a big 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
And going the other direction, that's even worse. um, for the way that it goes. And then you've got your, like, I went for work, but it was also supposed to be fun. So, like, I spent most of my days doing sessions for a convention I was at and then entertaining people at night or being entertained, So, like, all my things were out of pocket all at once. And I'm just going to say Vegas is not set up for circadian rhythm. Not even that much. not even that much.
Well, none of the travel is, right? No
Yeah.
matter whether it's the airports or, none of traveling is conducive to, our health, right? That hydration and like Sherry said, the circadian rhythm, the hormones, all of that gets thrown off. Hotels and electronics and, the EMF field, all of it is disrupted.
It is. And I even tried. I here's the thing. I probably should have thought about this before, like 4 days before. But I was like, oh, what can I? Let me just throw it in the chat here. Like, what can I do in like 3 days to help with this time change? And Sherry gave me some advice, and I tried to do it the best that I could. But that's still hard too, because you're still going off what I do regulate all the time. I'm at 8:30, and even tonight, that's going to happen again tonight, because not my travel, but my boyfriend's travel is going to interrupt my time, because his plane's not getting here till 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight, if it takes off.
Right.
'Cause-
Well, our bodies run on a 24-hour clock, right, Becky?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so, yeah, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, well, we've got the master, like I call it the master clock. That's the light, right? That's what syncs, that's why us coaches here are like, hey, get up, see the first light, see the sunrise, let's get the body moving. I know I drive every day and I've got the window cracked and I don't wear glasses and I'm getting light. And so that's your master clock. But then you have another clock that's synced by your food and movement and temperature. And so the meal timing. So if you're going like Coach Sly just did, she went an hour back and then or forward and then back. And, she was all messed up with when her meal times were, right? And then, like she said, forget it. The light exposure for in Vegas is not well, like what was it? You said that you could go from one casino hotel.
You could go, down in the strip. You don't have to go outside.
Right.
Don't need to. You can just go. We went from the Bellagio through all the wits and chains and ended up over at what was it, the Cosmopolitan, and I'm never and even then it reminded me of people have watched this Percy Jackson Lightning Thief. If anybody's ever seen that movie, when they go into the casino and they eat the little flower, but they get lost and they can't find their way out. And by the time they find their way out, they're so disoriented. They don't know which way is left. I can see that's easily done through there.
Well, and that's also because, like you said, traveling is stressful, right? Mm-hmm. So it's removing all of these environmental cues to your hormones. And yeah, all of them end up and rely on that. But whether to know what time it is, right, we need that circadian signal. Yes, there are zeitgebers or timekeepers that like the food and, all of that. But it starts at the airport when you first get there, right? And then you're on the plane with all, the blue light, confined space, altered surroundings, right? And then, well, if you have any delays, that's going to end up and throw, potentially meal timing off as well. I travel with food. I don't know if you, travel with any on your trip, but when I went to Utah or when I went down even to Texas, right? Same time zone, but I had to go to Denver before I went to Texas. Make that make sense. But when we went on our cruise, I travel with food there too. I take my food with me. But yeah, it all throws the wrong time and, dehydration sets in. I travel with my hydrogen water bottle. I did figure out, for anyone that is listening, you can actually fill your hydrogen water bottle and travel with it because it's medical grade water. Just learned that one this year. I had to empty my water bottle, but yeah, they'll test it and whatever. But anyway, when those signals are conflicted, the hormones try to end up and compensate, and that's where stress comes in, cortisol primarily. So yeah, you start out, your travel in this cortisol dominant state.
Well, I traveled with some food. When I was in Ohio, it was a little bit easier. Once I got there, I had access to a grocery store right around the corner. I had my own transportation. I made a few little mistakes. I wish I would have had my own silverware in the hotel room with me. but we went to a few steakhouse. I brought that food back. Ohio was a lot easier for me in that aspect of traveling and taking food with me. And I took meat and cheese on the plane. I have my little cooler, and I have my little ice packs in there. And my son wanted some moose meat, so I took a pound of moose meat with me. And then made it through the airport without being checked, and everything was fine. I didn't think about taking my hydrogen bottle. I wish I would have. But going to Vegas was different. I like anything that I got wrong going to Ohio, I tried to correct going to Vegas, and the situation was completely different. Yeah, I was in a hotel, but like the hotel commodities are like very minimal in the inside of a Vegas hotel. And then at least the one I was at, and then like there's no real stores right around there. It wasn't like I could go to the grocery store across there. I didn't have my own transportation. Yeah, I could call it Uber. But it did get to the point where I was just overexhausted and overtired, and shutting down. I even by Friday afternoon, I was trying to enjoy the vendor show part of it, and if I stopped moving, I was shutting down. And finally, I just had to do some self-care, and I just looked at my coworkers and I said, I need a nap. Sly needs a nap. If I'm going to go out tonight and we're going to go to these other places, I'm taking a nap now. So,
well, and that's where, again, the noise and the sensory overload and, dehydration, it's all cortisol, right? The wired but tired, all of that is leading to that cortisol, where when it's up, yeah, I'm sure you felt good and you were able to do it. But man, once the body ends up and, quits running on those stress hormones, it tanks.
It was real quick. It was real quick. And then, just like you said, the simulation, even as soon as you get off the airplane in Vegas, there's these big, huge slot machines that are going and simulating and stuff. And I played some, but I'm going to tell you, even that was anxiety driven for me because of Gray's. I could feel it, It wasn't the excitement of winning or could we win. It was like the anxiety of like watching even somebody else doing it. It's just like just continuously. I can remember maybe because we've educated ourselves, right? We've educated ourselves. So I remember in the morning, like early in the morning, they're like people there still or coming in and all types of the night. And it just really made me sad because I was like, man, this place is not set up for humans to live properly and be the best that they can be, right? Like this has to mess up somebody really bad. And you can see that in some of the faces too, some of the, whether they're just there for fun or gambling or whatever, you can still see that. And It kind of made me sad.
That burnout, inflammatory look. And that's where, we talked about your trip out there, because when I didn't see you in the BNC meeting, I'm like, where is she? Is she okay? And so I was messaging you, and then we talked. But when you said that, I'm like, man, my thought, of course, instantly went to, man, there goes their leptin signaling, right? Poor sleep, environment, the whole side, right? Cortisol. I'm like, dang.
It is. And then even, you're right, even on the eating, right? So I'm not left up to like eating what I normally eat, or sometimes even what I normally want to be eating. And you go to places and you try to order and you try to do the best you can with what they have. And, we went to a nice little fancy Italian restaurant, and, at that point I was just saying, just bring me the chicken fettuccine Alfredo. That's just where I was. And it was good. And I ate it and I enjoyed it. And I put it in my little tracker and I went on with my life. But I was able not to let it go too far though, and I did appreciate that. I didn't use those kinds of moments to just like, where's the first cake I can put my face into?
Well, and I think that comes from the years that you've put in as working on the foundation, working on solidifying your plan, your routine, to be able to have that little bit of variance, to be able to deviate and it not completely derail you.
Absolutely. I think we've all, and it takes a long time to do that. You're not going to do that in 5 weeks. You're not going to do that in 6 weeks. But I think it's a goal everybody should have when we're doing this, is to know what you need for yourself, keep your lane, but also have this window of flexibility to where me having the chicken fettuccine Alfredo doesn't send me, like I said, with cake in my face, or, standing in wherever. And there was plenty of that. There was plenty of that for sure, in abundance everywhere. But it was, I'll tell you what Elsa derailed me really at the Italian restaurant. Most of the stuff was in Italian.
That's Sherri's ballpark. She's Italian.
Right.
Where were you, Sherri?
No, you didn't call me. No. How
Sherri,
late?
you
Let me
Okay.
ask, how late were you eating?
Oh, well, so that night we left the hotel. We met them at 7, and we got there at 7. We probably wasn't sitting until 7:30, probably not till 8:30, 9 o'clock Vegas time. So that would put us at, I was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock my time, which I don't do.
Okay.
And then we're up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So yeah. I did have my time limits. They stayed up later than me. So but I was, I did have some self of that, of where I was just like, okay, it's Sly's bedtime, even though it was way past Sly's bedtime. I did have some of that, but it is hard. I mean, my coworkers, a couple of my coworkers were up at 4 o'clock every morning for the first few mornings, because that's what time they get up. Even if it was 6 o'clock here, it was 4 o'clock there. So they were definitely up, and they couldn't do anything about it. So,
did you sleep on the plane, or did you?
I did not sleep on the plane on the way there. It was kind of excitement. I had a good night's rest the night when I was leaving to go there. I put in play the couple things that you told about the timing and stuff like that. Our plane didn't leave till 7 a.m. So my leaving time was pretty good. On the way back, I brought and some lady told me I was an expert traveler. I had my comfy clothes on. I had my eye mask around my forehead. I didn't even care what I looked like. I'm like, this is how this happened. And I had my plane pillow. So I did sleep some on the way back. And then we had a 7-hour, and there you go. There's the stress of like, we had a 4-hour layover that turned into a 6-hour layover that could have turned into us not leaving. And so we're sitting there with that anxiety. Is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? What are we going to do if this doesn't happen? Me and my coworker made a bed on the floor in a little section that no plane was taken out of, close to where we were supposed to be at. So, yeah. but it's rough. And I don't know how some of these people that travel all the time, like, can have the regulation that they do. One of we're not our clients, but we're their client. He travels like that all the time, and like to different countries, like the Dominican, Switzerland, here, there, and I'm just like, I don't know how you do it. And he's done it for years. Does your body just get used to it, or are you just wrecked inside?
As I say, speak to it, little road warrior.
Well, I mean, I can and I can't, right? So I did. I was a road warrior for years. Just to give you an idea, in 2019, I was gone 192 nights. 2018, I was gone 189 nights. So I was a true road warrior, hotels, airports, another city. But I wasn't on my healing journey at the time. So I ate my way around wherever I was at. Like, I can to this day tell you that, oh, in Manhattan, if you go down this street, this avenue, you can't, go eat at this place. Or the best fish and chips I've ever had was in Calgary, of all places. Like, I ate my way around, and I also paid the price, right, of being at my top weight. I mean, I would get on the planes, and I would have to quietly whisper to, the flight attendants to give me a seatbelt extension, because I couldn't fit in just a regular seatbelt. So I traveled like that. And I remember after I went on my healing journey, and I did travel, and the first time that I didn't have to have a seatbelt extension was so eye-opening and shocking, right? But I travel way different now. So when I do travel, I bring my food, and I've got my blue blocking glasses on, and I bring my hydrogen water, and I'm stocked to the gills. And if I had to be a road warrior again, it would look a whole lot different than what it used to. Becky and I know, have talked about being able to go out to eat for the most part, and be able to eat on plan, right? Whatever it is that you're eating. And the only place I had trouble one time was at a Japanese restaurant. And I thought my poor daughter was going to have a coronary, because I'm like, well, do you have this in your soup? And they were like, yes. And I'm like, never mind. And like, it was down to like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not hungry. And then it made my daughter mad that I wasn't. Do you remember that last year, Becky? But I mean, if I travel to my parents, I send food. I used to send food, have food delivered. I immediately go grocery shopping. I bring my own. So I am that person at that now. If even to this day, I have beef sticks and things like that in my purse. I'm never caught without, right? I'm never going to, I plan to fail to plan, right? That whole adage. So yeah, it's just a whole different, I know when Becky and I traveled to Hack Your Health, was it a year ago, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, because we didn't go this last year.
Yeah. So we went, now I drove and Becky flew, and we did the thing. Becky flew with a steak, you guys.
I did.
She did.
I told you, when I end up and I travel, I had a bag full of food. I mean, now I didn't have it in a cooler. I just had it in a bag. But, and that's the other thing. When you're flying, so most airlines only allow your personal item, right? A purse, a backpack, whatever, and a carry-on. But did you know that as long as you have a third bag and it is only food, you can have a third bag?
I
Yes.
did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
I had my carry-on. I had a check bag, and I had my personal item, and basically my carry-on was my supplies. It had nothing in there. It had all my supplies that I needed for my life. I had food and different things for the hotel and stuff. I had some things, right? Um, maybe maybe I could have door dashed, but I was like, do I want to try to door dash here? I don't know. Stuff like that. But I wish I would have traveled with more stuff going there. If I would have known my resources would have been a lot less, it would have been there. I mean, like they did, the best thing that they had in the hotel was a steak and shake. And you could just go get burgers and patties and cheese and lettuce and tomatoes and all the things for it. That was that. And I even had their fries one day because they cook it in tallow. Did you know that? Did you know that they use tallow there? I did not. I was so happy. I didn't get to go to the In-N-Out burger. I was kind of super sad about that. But even like going to the restaurants, mainly most of the restaurants has something. I went to Old Red. Is that what they're called? What's his name? Blake Shelton's places. Mm. I got wings. It was great. So, but it's just like, were they perfect? Probably not. Let's be real. But it was good enough. Didn't have to be perfect. Where did we go? We went one night to another place. What was it? I don't remember the name of it, but I ordered halibut. I was so excited to get this halibut. It was not good, by the way. Not good. But it was okay. I made it through it. There were things. I did look up most of the restaurants before I went. I knew where we were going. We usually know where we're going before we go there. So I was able to do that. Really, it was the day-to-day stuff. It was the during the day things that really fell short on. And then, like you said, you get overly tired, overly stimulated. The cortisol, what comes up must come down, right? And it's not going to stay up the whole time that I'm there. So once that started coming down, that's where I found myself in a lot of trouble and just not wanting to make decisions, right? Just like, I don't care, just bring me whatever you want.
The whole decision fatigue aspect. And that's where many people are living in that state in their day-to-day, not just in travel, but a lot of people have that decision fatigue day-to-day. And it's ultimately leading to why we're in the, metabolic health condition that we are. Or many are, I should say.
Many people are, and even if you're thin, you can still be in that same situation. One of the things that I talk about with the clients at the treatment center, like our body regulation is so out of whack. And from the damage that we've done to it, not only what we put into our bodies, but like not getting the regular sleep, not getting, everything that we need with that, always being in a state of fight and flight or freeze, maybe not freezing, but fight and flighting for sure. It's been a great, out of all the things that I've learned, right? Like food, my cat is attacking my foot right now and his claws are really big. So I have to gently take these out of here. Okay, let me pull this up here. Out of all the things that I've learned, the food is important, right? The food is important. But even on Metabolic Mind, it's not everything. It's not everything. So if we don't have our circadian rhythm and we don't have our routines and the regulation of cortisol, we're not doing ourselves any good. We're just not.
Yep.
And I love that more platforms are going to that. and putting that out there and not just like the food.
Yeah. Nutrition is, like you said, it's important, right? We can't out exercise or outlive poor nutritional choices. But also the flip side, right? We can't end up and have a bad lifestyle and an overstimulated lifestyle, but be eating perfect.
Right.
You have to end up and, it's like a third, right? Nutrition is only a third of what we end up and do.
It is. And, you know, that was, I think, a hard lesson that I learned this past fall, too. Maybe I already knew it, but I still had to relearn it again, you know, when things went wrong in my life here. You know, I was living the summer. I was trying to be free and frolic around for the summer, right? But my summer ends and I go straight into busy season at my work. And I had this plan. I'm like, oh, I can do this plan. I'll just start it this day, right? Well, when things didn't work out well, I crashed and burned. I mean, like, not, yeah, literally, I crashed and burned a lot, you know, anxiety, panic attacks, all those things were happening. And what I did learn or relearned or was reminded of is that, you know, somebody that's preparing for something big in their lives or just the way they do it, you know, like some of these fitness people that get out there and they do this and they do this, they do this. They don't wait 30 days before they go on stage to start doing this, right? They don't do that. They train for months on end to be on stage. And so that's something that I guess I needed to relearn, and I really did relearn it this last month. And I'll take forward with me again is that I need to be living like I need to be preparing for going on stage this fall now, not in May, not in June, not July, not August, but now. And it should be my lifestyle, and just keep it at that, and not forget why I do these things, you know, and how I do these things.
And that's one of the things that we all end up and speak to is the sustainable aspect of a lifestyle, right? It shouldn't be something that you're just doing for the next 30 days, 90 days. It's something sustainable. So what does that end up and look like, you know, for each of us, right? Of what can we sustain? If it's not sustainable, then you're not going to end up and do it. And that's where, you know, you said, I really need to end up and look at, you know, what you're doing. So you don't have the crash and the burn, right? But there again, is it something that you can sustain, right, long term? Not to say that there's not times where you may end up and, you know, adjust or tweak or do some, you know, obviously I think majority of us, especially you, right, is a little more active in, you know, spring, summer, and fall time than in the winter time because where you live. But, you know,
What are you trying to say?
you live in the frozen tundra is what I'm trying to say. Right? No different than myself, right? I'm not outside near as much when it's, you know, 20 below zero wind chill. I mean, common sense, right? Oh, I just seen the comment on Instagram. What is the third? It's how the body ends up and makes energy. So when we're talking about like nutrition, it only being a third, you also have water and electrons, which is again me being outside, you know, coming from a circadian side, the light, the water, or the electrons, and the nutrition. So there's your three pieces of your puzzle and how our body ends up and makes energy. But I gain more electrons, right, when I'm outside. Sherri and I talked about this the other day when she was at work. You know, people may look at us funny, especially you, when you're out in the snow barefoot, right? Yes, we do it from time to time. We have challenges in the community when we end up when we do that type
I don't
of
even do it for the challenge. I just do it.
Right?
Yeah.
But no, yeah. You know, and I think around this too is the mindset that goes into it. You, I when we were when I was doing the sessions, I picked some managing sessions and stuff, but there was also some mindset sessions. And this guy, he has his own like journal, whatever, but he has in there literally. And the I'll show you. I don't mean I was sitting here. It wasn't meant for this, but maybe it was meant for this, and I just didn't know. I mean, we're not the only people around here that feel this way about things. But he says where you get your energy from, right? He says the 5 areas you get your energy: sleep, exercise, nutrition, hydration, and stress. Like there's so many people that are recognizing this in all different areas across the world, and I just think it's the more people that like know that it's like not just woo woo. It's not, oh, well, you're just doing that for whatever. No, we're doing it because it does have merit to it. And I do like doing it in the snow in the winter time. Right now, the snow in my yard is up to my knees, but there's that part. But it has that, and in the summer we're moving and stuff a lot more. But and that's what I need to do though, is just to have more of the routine down, even, and not when I go into my stressful time of the year, right? I need to not think that I can, just because I did it these months, I can stop doing it these months and just pick it up right where I left off, because it just didn't work for me like that this year. It doesn't mean that I can't have fun. It doesn't mean I can't go places or do things. It doesn't mean you can't travel. It just means we need to be more mindful of like how we're doing all these things and what our recovery time looks like. I got this little band thing. Thanks, Becky. I can even keep it on most nights in my sleep.
Good job. That's a first.
I know. There's still some nights it's on and just like get it off. But most of the nights I can keep it on.
So I wonder if you put it on your foot.
Oh, that might work. Does it do the same thing?
Yeah, mine's on my ankle.
Didn't know that was an option. Didn't know that was. See, I just learned something, guys. Didn't know that was an option. Would have been wearing it on my ankle for a long time since then. But they, I wonder. I bet you I wore this when I was in Vegas. So I bet you if I went back and looked, we would see all the chaos that it caused internally to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I've gotten back this last week and my sleeps, I got a B. I'm on a B. But it's not an A, but it's better than a C or D. And I bet you would see the difference in it. I bet you my metabolic age was at 29 then.
Right.
For any of you guys that don't know these human things, whatever they're called, Hume, I have the scale. I have this little thing that tracks some of my body measurements. And within that app, it gives you your metabolic age in there too. And I will be turning 50 in June. And it said mine was at 29. I guarantee it wasn't at 29 last week when I was in Vegas. It was probably at 80. I was probably an 80-year-old person right back then.
And she posted that in our private, we have a little coaches group, and she posted that. So we've seen that she's 29.
You look good for your age, which you do anyway, but
yeah, thank you.
That's funny. So I know we all have our non-negotiable nighttime rituals, right? But when you're traveling, and what's funny is looking back on when I traveled like I did, I did have a nighttime non-negotiable. I was in bed by 8:00. I was, but I didn't realize what I was doing, but it was more of a survival thing because I had to make sure I had plenty, because I don't sleep good in hotels anyway. Who does? But I had to make sure I got plenty of sleep to be able to go into the client site the next morning. So it was always like everything got cut off. I had to be in bed by 8 o'clock when I did travel. And like I said, this is before my healing journey even started. What is yours? Well, I know Becky's been known to be in hotels and go outside and walk barefoot.
There wasn't really a place to do that in either of those places I was at. But my non-negotiables is I wish I could have done it, but I did good with the bedtime in Ohio, right? Technically, I was in bed by 8:30 our time, my regular time in Ohio. It was just happened to be 9:30 there. So I was able to do that, but showering and having that eye mask on, turning on my white noise and going to bed. And even if it wasn't the same hours there, because I just can't do that while I'm there, because I'm there. My job there is more than just going to the sessions during the day. It's networking and interacting with our clients and the people that we are clients with. And that's just part of both about going there is. But the same thing is, going upstairs when it is time, not staying out till 4 a.m., going upstairs when it's time, taking a shower, putting the mask on, turning everything else off, turning my white noise on, and making sure that I'm good in sleep. So those kinds of things would be my non-negotiables with it. I actually don't think I can sleep without an eye mask on anymore. But if I had the choice, if I was just on vacation for myself, I think I would stick to that bedtime. We can do all the things. We just got to go to bed now.
Well, and that's when when I traveled, I could easily from the courtyard pick out my room, because I travel with my little red nightlight. And, so I had like the balcony door, and I could see, right? My room was up there red because I had the nightlight on. And I don't always end up and do the grounding. It kind of depends on the grounds. So I am a little picky, right? Because when people travel, they end up and they have their pets and, all of that. But I'll use my hands. I may end up and be outside standing, holding on to their shrubs or, something along those lines. But, most mornings when I was waiting for the Uber, right, I was standing outside and I was hanging on to a plant. Yeah, there were a couple times where, someone would ask me, if I needed help. And I'm like, no, I'm just waiting on an Uber. And, so I used that. There was one morning where, yes, I was outside walking and grounding. And one of the speakers for the show that day ended up and, met me later. And he's like, oh, you're the one that was out walking in the courtyard this morning grounding. I'm like, yep, that was me. I travel with my blue blockers. I like the 3-in-1 frame for traveling because it's less, I have to travel with. So, it's things like that I still can create as non-negotiables, but obviously when I'm at home, just like right now, right, I'm in my red light, I can control my home environment. So I don't have to end up and have, I'm in my office. Downstairs, I have, my salt lamps and stuff going. So I have that control. I don't have to use the products or the gadgets, but when I travel, I do, because I'm out of my, comfort zone, if you will, but I'm still able to maintain and sustain what I've created for the most part. Yes, there are sometimes, but when we did the cruise, one of the other things was I was maximizing the amount of time I was outside. We went swimming. We, we're on the deck, right? Sitting in the chairs, just really maximizing that daylight because it was, even on a cruise, you're getting the bright lights, you're getting, crazy hours sometimes. We went to a couple shows in the evening and that type of thing. But I just really maximize the amount of time. Helps when you're consuming other foods too, right?
How do you wear this thing on your ankle?
You open it.
But I mean, like, which side does this thing go on? The inside or the outside?
I put it on the inside because I sleep on my side.
Oh.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
These are the real discussions that happen.
This is behind the scenes,
This
friends.
is literally behind the scenes. You guys just witnessed the whole behind the scenes. This is what goes on when we're not recording. We're not that was what that was.
Well, welcome to the three crazies that end up in.
I was just sitting here thinking, and I was just like, but does it do the thing, or do I need to have it on this side of the ankle? Can it go on the inner ankle?
Well, if you sleep on your side and it's on the outside, then it's going to be like you have a little lump on the outside of your ankle.
Yeah, I guess so,
but if my legs are together, the insides of my ankles aren't. I mean,
okay, I'm like a fish in a bed. I don't have your sleep style where you can just lay there and go to sleep and not move. My boyfriend's like that too. I'm just like, what kind of psychopath are you? How do you do this? Because he just can just decide to go to sleep, and he just goes to sleep. And I'm just like, fine. I'm over here going, okay. And flip-flopping all night long. It's fine. One day the sleep will come in, maybe, possibly. Who knows? But I'm going to try this ankle thing out tonight.
This is great.
Random
this is great. We couldn't even. We couldn't script
friends.
this. Yeah, we couldn't even script this. This went sideways quick, but it was good. I mean, it was helpful
well, there's
for the
people
audience.
out there that might need to know these same things. Like they might have the band too.
So let's go back and let's talk about what band, for those that aren't watching and listening, tell the audience what band you're talking about.
Okay, so this year I have some goals in my life, and I've done a lot of good things, but I'm at the point where I really need to tune in and see what's going on. And so I can go to my gym and pay $10 and get on this 3D scale or whatever, and I'm like, okay, whatever, but I'm not going to pay that 2 or 3 times a week, right? And I want to measure a couple times a week so I can get an average. And see the whole picture, because we know body weight, everything fluctuates daily, right? We all know that it fluctuates daily. I want to see what's going on. So, like anything else, Becky starts posting these things, and I'm like, okay, well, this must be a good scale because Becky's using it. And I know she's already did all the research for me. So I purchased the scale. Also, it was like a half Christmas whatever gift for my boyfriend too, because he has some goals that he's trying to accomplish too. And I figured we'd both get a good use out of it, right? Well, then I get it, and then I'm looking, and there's all these other things that I can find out about it. But you need this little bracelet thing, this little metric thing, and it gives you grades. And for the first week, it gives you grades on, it'll tell you what it's conducting each day, what it's doing its metrics on. And then it just gives you averages through the week and stuff. It tells you how good you are, how you're not, and all that stuff. Right, Becky? That's it. It's Becky's fault I have this band.
You did. It is. Yeah,
it's Becky's fault I have this band.
So it tracks more of the in-depth, right? The medical grade insights, if you will, as far as what our body is doing, because obviously we know that there's more than just the scale. And, that's one of the things that I've always talked about is we are more than just a scale, but a lot of people don't want, the Oura ring. They don't want, a Fitbit. They don't want the multiple gadgets. And that's one of the things with the Hume Band and the Hume Scale is it's one app and it's streamlined essentially. So it'll still give you your HRV, it'll give you your stress level, it'll give you basically your recovery and your cellular side of things. It'll give you, body temperature. So that's one of the other things, especially as someone that had, thyroid issues and was constantly cold, or hormone issues from my hysterectomy, right? And would be dealing with hot flashes. Knowing, especially for thyroid health, where your core body temperature is important. Are you someone that, gets ill, right? It has that early identifier that something may, an illness may be coming, right? But the other thing that I really liked about this was the deeper in-depth on cellular. It'll give you, now, yes, they are bioimpedance, right? We're not doing a DEXA scan, we're not doing a bod pod, but the data from the Hume Health app and the band is like 99% accurate to a DEXA scan. But it also gives you like your cellular hydration. It gives you, those in-depth metabolic markers. So I did end up at share a link. Again, when we're talking about building that resilient person, right? You look beyond just, did I sleep last night? What was the quality of your sleep? How well did you sleep, right? Not just the quantity, but the quality. How well are you recovering, right? Maybe you're someone, I know, Sly, you end up and you do Zumba. I added, resistance training in, and how well am I recovering? Am I still in this stress state? Is it too much? Because exercise is important, but we really have to balance that, recovery side. And that was one of the things, that I posted last week. So Instagram, for those of you that see my weekly weigh-ins, that's coming off of the Hume scale. It measures the muscle mass. Lean muscle mass is important for longevity, right? So even though I'm on a body recomp and weight loss side of things, and I say body recomp because I don't necessarily care what the number on the scale is. I'm looking at these deeper metrics, fat, percentage, and the lean muscle mass. I want to make sure I have the lean muscle mass and I'm not losing lean muscle, but I want to end up and lose the fat. So all those type of things that I end up and I look at with these two devices when I'm doing my weekly weigh-ins. And yes, it is important, but scale wise, body fat wise, again, it gives me, core, right? We know how important the lower visceral fat is. So it gives you all of that. Long-winded answer to say that, but I did end up and share a link if someone wants to check that out too.
Yeah, so for those listening, it's www.humehealth.com, and that's HUME health.com. And if you use code Rebecca 62232, you can get a discount. So if that interests you, definitely check that out.
Absolutely.
So just kind of a wrap up, what is one tip that each one of us can give our audience, that one thing that maybe to help with a regulated travel checklist?
I'm gonna steal what you told to me. I think that did do some good when it came down to it. And a few days to a week before you go, kind of look at the time zone. Try to start living in that time zone before you go. The best way that you can. I think that was very helpful for me.
Yeah. Not only the aspect of the time zone, but mine would end up to be anchor your first and last light exposure. So no matter how chaotic travel was, no matter how many delays or, whatever it was, right? Try to end up and get the grounding if you can, but getting that natural light in your eyes within that 30 to 60-minute window of waking. And obviously, dim lights if you get in after, after sunset, dim those lights, but then end up and get up first thing in the morning, because that is really going to be important when it comes to your cortisol side of things. That's kind of your primary initial anchor is going to end up and be the cortisol. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can end up and be, 2, 5, 10 minutes, whatever you end up and have. Cloudy days work, balconies work, standing in front of a hotel works. All of it, is beneficial for the body. So,
yeah, interestingly enough, mine would be wearing my blue blocking glasses. And 2 years ago, when Becky and I were at Hack Your Health, Becky and I were about the only two people walking around with blue blocking glasses on. Like, it was crazy. Like, we have all these influencers and, big wigs and everything. And here's the two of us walking around with our blue blockers on. I found that very interesting. But I travel. I now, whenever I fly, when I travel, my blue blockers are with me, and I wear them at work. That is a non-negotiable. I wear them through the airports, non-negotiable. Anytime I'm under that fake light, they're on, or I'm in front of a screen or something like that. And food, but bring food. Don't chance it to the the lovely meals that you get when you're walking through the airport, and you see, like, yeah, and I'm hungry, right? Bring your food.
I'll tell you, there was one. I will give props to a little diner in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities. They served breakfast. I got eggs and bacon before we got on the plane to go to Vegas. They were delicious, and the bacon was so good. So there are places, but you got to look for them, and you have to look at the menu if you're going to stop in the place.
Absolutely. Anything else, ladies? So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up if you guys don't have anything. So hopefully this episode helped you rethink travel, right? And we hope you definitely picked up some strategies to help make going to the airport, the hotels, or time zone jump, right? Feel a little more human. Don't forget, if you did like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment telling us your biggest travel struggle. We read the comments. We would definitely, or maybe you got a great travel hack that you would love to share with us. We love that. Your engagement helps this message reach more people who are tired of feeling wrecked, right? Every time they get on a plane. And also make sure that you're here next week, because Becky and I are going to dive into a topic everyone feels, but no one's talking about: the Valentine crash, right? Why your body rebels the week after the love day. So from hormone swings to emotional overload to metabolic aftermath of the fun foods, right? We're going to break down some biology, why mid-February hits so hard. You're not going to want to miss that either. And of course, the first Monday of every month, we have Coach Sly on for our Coaches Roundtable. And as always, thank you so much for joining us.
I do have one thing real quick.
Yes.
If you get on an airplane, and a Delta airplane, and you have time to watch the TV, watch The Darker Side of Chocolate. I'm telling you, it'll help you with your Valentine's Day and expeditions if you watch that. That's all. That's my last travel tip. If you're flying Delta, watch The Darker Side of Chocolate.
Awesome. Well, Have a wonderful week, and we will see y'all next Monday.